So, it was on Friday, actually. I ended up going to the Mount Royal Cemetery. That is where we buried my mom, almost 2 years ago. And my father passed away in April. We cremated my father. And, at the time, the people at Mount Royal Cemetery said, you can wait until the weather gets a little bit better and the earth is a little bit warmer, and we can bury your father's ashes when you want at your convenience. You can let us know the date. At the same time, my mom passed away like 18 months ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago, and almost 2 years now. And we still had not gotten the stone. There's a worldwide shortage of granite, right? So we had been waiting. So everything came into place, and that the stone had finally arrived. So on Friday, we buried my dad along with my mom, and we'd waited a while for that to happen and to have the stone. And, it gave us a tremendous amount of peace. I'll be very honest, and we were standing in the cemetery around the plot, looking at the stone, seeing my mother and father together again. And, we're looking around the cemetery and, it provides a great deal of peace. And I'll be honest, at that time, I thought about the people who have loved ones at Notre-Dame-des-Neiges cemetery. And I said to myself, geez, what would I be going through if for the last 7 months I wasn't able to go visit my mother? And maybe now we'd be still waiting in order to bury my father. That crossed my mind. And I said, geez, I'm glad I'm not going through that. Let's get the latest here on the situation at Notre Dame Cemetery, because maintenance staff go back to work today. They reached a deal. Office staff remain on strike. And of course, the workers have been on strike since September. Now they're going to have to go back to the work on the backlog of burials, and families will soon be allowed to go visit their loved ones once again. Let's go to Paul Caghassi. He's a spokesperson for the group that represents the rights of those who have passed away and the family members of those who have passed away and who are at the Notre-Dame-des-Neiges Cemetery. Paul, welcome back to the program.
Hello, Elias. First, let me send you my sympathy for the passing of your parents.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Paul.
Expressed this very, very rightful about how you feel about the passing of the loved ones and how you have to deal with the grieving process.
So, and it's so important, Paul. So, I mean, before we get to the new developments today, maybe your emotions here, because there is some progress. How are you feeling on this morning?
Well, we're feeling a little better, but we are not celebrating. I mean, the re-celebration is to go through the burying process and the grieving process and move on with our life. Death is not a choice. Death is a fatality, which is not the case with the conflicts of labor conflicts or strikes or lockouts. So our family went through a lot of stress the last 6-7 months, and I do believe that we're going to the normality. So I think the stress went a little level down at this point, but we're not out of the problem yet. Mm-hmm. As you know, the meeting today, the first meeting between the workers and the cemetery to assess the damage of this neglected cemetery for the last 8 months. And you expressed right. Next door there is Montreal Cemetery and the Mont Royal Cemetery, and why the cemetery, our cemetery, the Notre-Dame-des-Neiges, is all going every 10 years with the same problem? Mm-hmm. And I do believe it's because there is a management problem. Mm-hmm. How could you express your discontent about this type of management? Every 10 years you have this problem, either a lockout or a strike. So we really need to go deeply into what happened here and make sure it will not happen again.
So do you have a timeline for us here? Is there a timeline for families to be able to bury their loved ones and see those that they have lost?
Well, I went through this myself in 2007, and it took, I would say, a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks before it's happening. My assessment at this point is that we don't have contacts with anybody there, but today they're meeting, they're going to assess the damage, and probably they're going to secure the land, and as they go along, they're going to start burying. So this is my assessment. So I cannot make any timeline. Mm-hmm. Timeline to be the cemetery who have to do that. Now, we're not completely out of the problem. As you know, the administration employees are not back to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe this will also will have a backlog.
So can I ask you about that? Because it seems, in the labor minister is happy that the maintenance workers have come to a deal and that kind of thing. But is it way too early for any type of a victory lap? Because without the office staff back, you're still in much of the same situation?
Elias, I will not be using the word victory.
Yeah.
We are now into a normal process.
Mm-hmm.
There is no victory to claim here. We are asking people to go back to work, as I always ask, go back to work while you're negotiating. And this is really what's happening today. Maintenance work will go and clear up the mess of the ice storm, but also the mess of a neglected cemetery. So, and I think they have to go back to working, including the administration employee, as soon as possible. Yes, the new deal is until 2027 only. So it's 4 years from now. So we might be going to the same ordeal again. So what I'm trying to say at this point is we need to go deeply into the roots of the problem of the cemetery, mm-hmm. because the population of Quebec will not be going through this again. It's a national shame what we've been seeing over the last 20 years.
We're with Paul Caghassi, a spokesperson, represents the rights of those who have passed away and are buried at Notre-Dame-des-Neiges Cemetery and the families of those who are there. Paul, why do you do it? Why do you still do this? Well, it must be so tough, and there must be so much heartache. Why are you still fighting this fight?
Because I care for the family. I went through this myself in 2007, and I take this to my heart. I mean, I know exactly what those families are going through. It's not the end of the road for them. They're going to be going through another grieving process. They've been struggling for the last 6-7 months. And I mean, I know it's going to be tough for them. It's going to be, and we need to show to the population of Quebec this will not happen again. We will not forget. We will not forget what they did to us. They took us hostages. And, at one point, the union and the cemetery were just saying, we're doing this for you guys, for the family. This was false. They did it for their own good. Now we're asking them to go back to work, to do their best, to bury as soon as possible.
Should there be something done legislation-wise?
Well, yes, and a good point. I'm going to ask for a inclusive committee to see what happened there. Mm-hmm. I mean, at one point they rejected the funeral services as an essential service. Well, maybe we should reconsider. Maybe we should say, well, even Mr. Boulay said, well, a strike is not meant to be what we've been watching with seeing the last 8 months. Mm-hmm. Today, strike has limits. The human rights is above that. And I think the politicians of Quebec need to sit down, including the opposition, and say, what could we do to resolve this problem? We should look, the church was completely silent on the whole ordeal. Yeah. Maybe the church should speak up and say, well, you know what, we cannot manage the cemetery anymore. It's too big for us. We need to have the help of the governments. The Ville de Montréal, too. The Ville de Montréal, it's a jewel, as you know. It's an open sky museum.
Yes.
And where the heritage of Montreal is there.
Paul, can I just ask you because we got to wrap up the interview here.
Yeah.
But do you have a message for families? Is there something you'd like to say on air to the families that have been waiting and have been more than patient? Do you have a message for them this morning? Well,
the message is that, okay, it's going to happen for you guys. So now you've been waiting 8 months, maybe another 2, 3, 4 weeks. But I want to send them a message to the family. We're here for you guys. We're going to continue to support you, and we're going to be watching it will not happen again.
Paul, thanks so much for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Elias.
That's Paul Caghassi, a spokesperson for the group that represents those who have passed away and who are at Notre-Dame-des-Neiges Cemetery and the family members of those we've lost.